The mayor right there?
Yes.
Oh, really, dude?
Yeah.
You piled on and you got your team's butt kicked because you made sure Chris Jones was ready to play, and you made sure all of his teammates were ready to play. So, to me, yeah, big mistake poking the bear.
Poking the bear.
Well, it's not necessarily about poking the bear. You know, like, you get bulletin board material every week, and you just got to go out and play football. And when you look at what the Kansas City Chiefs did, they went out and played football. They didn't care about getting their mayor to speak. They didn't care about renaming a stadium. They focused on getting Patrick Mahomes healthy and finding ways to get Chris Jones in one-on-one so he can be an absolute butt kicker. And that's why you win the game. But here's what happens.
Yeah.
When you do all that stupidity during the week and when you have all this fun, you set yourself up for this. You set yourself up for Joseph Asai crying on the sideline. And ain't no Kansas City Chief finna run over there and tell him it's all right.
Yeah.
It's like Coach Tomlin used to always tell me, nobody cares about your problems, right? Most people happy that you got them. And right now, the Kansas City Chiefs are extremely happy that Joe Burrow and Eli Apple and that jabroni of a mayor and all of those people in Cincinnati who were sitting at home going like, we won the last 3. We got Joe Burrow. He's like Jon Snow. It doesn't matter if you have a dragon. He will kill your queen in front of the dragon, and the dragon will forget that it's a dragon. And still, they win. The Kansas City Chiefs show professionalism, though, and execution is what gets you the Super Bowl, not great bulletin board material.
That's brilliantly said, as only you can. All right, Dan, but let's get to business here. Let's start with Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
That's a man who was clearly playing on one leg.
Yep.
The question is, how would it limit him? The answer is maybe he gives us the defining performance of his young career yesterday.
I've never seen one of those Dragon episodes, so I don't know what you're talking about. When it comes to that, here's in many ways, yesterday was part of the reason why we've never seen anything like Patrick Mahomes before. He was the MVP this year. He had the MVP type of performance. And in a game where they ran the football for 34 yards, he had 3 offensive linemen that didn't play, or 3 wide receivers that weren't in the game at some points, and he's on one leg. He had an MVP performance. And the thing that I liked about the game the most was a lot of the non-flashy stuff. Patrick just realizing, oh, there's nothing else down the field. I can move a little bit, just enough to get the ball in my hands. Move to my left just enough to get the ball in my hands. It wasn't maybe some of the jaw-dropping stuff that we see. Now, we saw that on the Kelsey touchdown. We saw that in the MVS touchdown. And the thing that stood out to me the most is this, Greeny. For a guy that played on one leg and no rushing yards and receivers that were out, Cincinnati's defense touched the ball 0 times. Mm-hmm. To be able to manage the game in that regard and never put the ball in harm's way carelessly was the most impressive aspect of the game performance-wise.
They touched the ball defensively 0 times. Rex, you also think they didn't touch the quarterback enough times?
Yeah, no,
Cincy defense.
Absolutely. By the way, Patrick Mahomes, I've only seen the NFL games for 50 years. Mm-hmm. Easily the most talented player I've ever seen.
We've never seen anything like it.
Nobody
really
ever.
haven't.
I only saw 50 years of this. Nobody's close to this
okay,
guy.
so before I get
Nobody's
how
close.
about the guts that he showed you yesterday?
The guts are crazy. And for him to sit back, he's clearly on one leg. And for him to make that run, you talk about a defining play.
Yeah, that's
it's
real.
not the throws. It's it's that run. Mm-hmm. Why? Because look, this dude he's got everything. He's got brains. He's got arm talent. He's got he's got mobility. He's got all that. But you know what? He's got guts too. Mm-hmm. And in that situation, that's what it showed me. Like, this dude is amazing. And he just proved I'm by far the best player in the league. You can put Joe Burrow, best quarterback in the league. This dude right here, he is the guy.
He's the guy.
And here's the thing, I got to say this. Because of that, why the hell didn't you go after him? I love Lou Anarumo. I think he's phenomenal. I think
the defensive coordinator of the Bengals, yeah.
Yes. If you're facing Rex Ryan, Buddy Ryan, any other Ryan, my wife, she's going to knock the hell out of Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
All right? You got to go after this guy. I wanted to make sure that he knew he was hurt. What the hell? He's sitting back. And if I'm going to rush 4, I'm going to do whatever. Well, that's the number 1 offensive line in the league in pass protection, win percentage. You only had 30 sacks in a regular season, Cincinnati. Go get him. Tell the farm. Over anything else, I'm going to knock the hell out of him and see how he feels. Remind him he's injured. Yeah.
But I think that's the other piece of it. And I talked about it on Friday because we kept trying to get to the point of how will Patrick Mahomes' injury hinder him and hinder this offense. And I said we have to remember that Patrick Mahomes is about being able to manipulate the game with his mind. He does have the best arm talent in the entire league. And then what we saw yesterday was the fact that he understands himself. He has enough awareness to know, okay, I can't move the way I'm used to moving. Let me get the football out of my hands. Let me take the check down. Let me get to my third read and get the football to someone that can get yards after the catch. And then when I do need to make a play, when I do need to exceed the X's and O's, I can dig deep and find that play. This is one of those games that Patrick Mahomes didn't teach us anything he needed to teach us about his talent. He taught us about his leadership. He taught us about his willingness to be a part of a team. And then when you see the Travis Kelce come over and scream what he screamed into the microphone, it's not because Patrick Mahomes is uber talented. It's because Patrick Mahomes is their guy. Patrick Mahomes is a dude that dug deep last week to play in the second half and did the same thing to fight to be there for his team this week and outplayed one of the other better quarterbacks in this entire league.
Yeah, I mean, in a conference championship game, the longest run Kansas City had in a win was 6 yards.
Yeah, how about that?
They played a team that was on a 10-game winning streak, and the quarterback, Patrick, accounted for 91% of their offense. I mean, it was a big-time performance by him, and that's why, listen, this from an offensive guy, Patrick played tremendous. The reason the Chiefs won was a Chris Jones.
No question.
And that's from an offensive person.
No question.
I thought that Spags, their defense coordinator, Steve Spagnuolo, did an incredible job of using Chris to either get in one-on-one rush situations for him or create other one-on-one rush situations for somebody else. I thought the coverages attached to it were unique. Rex, we talked about this last week. Those two wide defensive tackles, the center turns to double Chris Jones. Now Mike Danny, you just push the pocket. Chris ends up winning on the back end, but that's because of that pocket push and the coverage attached to it. 3rd and 2, there's those two wide defensive tackles again. One-on-one, one-on-one, one-on-one. Chris is getting double teamed. Somebody else has got to win. That forces Joe to just have a little bit of a miscommunication, maybe a forced throw in that situation, uncharacteristic interception thrown by Joe Burrow. And then to end the game, Romo mentioned it, you single him up one-on-one with that tackle. I have no idea why they're not chipping with the tight end or a back, and he dominates. So Chris Jones, in many ways, had an Aaron Donald type of performance and impact when it comes to defensive tackle.
Guys, I think he was the most dominant defensive player in the league this year. Defensive player of the year, no question about it. And in this game specifically, he was doubled 31 of 38 pass rushes. And all he did was have 2 sacks and 8 pressures. This guy is the most dominant player. And by the way, you don't need to sit back and say, hey, I'm going to poke you. Guess what? He just smashed you. You're going to watch him play in 2 weeks. He's still going to be playing. And Spags, to his credit right there, he sat back and said, I'm going to finally give you a one-on-one and let you go whip this fish over there playing right tackle. Like they're lining up to play against these backups. Isn't it funny how last week they had the same 3 backup offensive linemen. They just look like backup offensive linemen this week.
Give me a final word here on this game. We have a lot of things to get to. I want to get to the NFC game here, and we'll be on this all morning long, obviously, but a final word.
The demise of the Kansas City Chiefs and the rise of the Cincinnati Bengals was a little bit premature for us. The Kansas City Chiefs are still the premier team with the premier quarterback. Are the Cincinnati Bengals a part of that conversation? Absolutely. They heard the noise and they answered the questions.
It's so well said, because one of the things I think that got overlooked is they beat him 3 times, it was by a total of 9 points. I mean, they beat him by 3 plays. It's not like these were one-sided games.
The other part is this now. They won, the Kansas City Chiefs win by a field goal, too. This doesn't say that it's not going to continue to be a battle going forward.
And they needed the penalty to get into field goal range.
They are evenly matched. And speaking of the penalties, there's a lot to be said about the way those were handled yesterday as well, and we will. But first, Danny and the family were in Philly yesterday to watch the